Hey everyone, welcome to the Embody Your Truth course. Very excited to have you here. We're going to be talking all about authenticity and how we can move and step into more of who we are by asking ourselves this question: how much of me can I be? That's really what this is about. So, embodiment of truth is about embodiment, right? We become something that we want to become, our truth specifically, and a lot of us have. A real tough time showing up in life for exactly who we are, right? We hold back aspects of ourselves because we may not like them, we may have been told that they're unacceptable, and whatever it might be. So what we end up doing is we have our truth kind of over here, and we may embody it with certain people or when we're alone, and then when we're with people, we abandon our truth and we become who they think we need us to be. And this is a pretty wide gap in between these two things. And embodiment is all about shortening that gap and stepping into the truth of who you are and being proud of who you are through self-ownership. So I'm very excited to have you guys in this course. This is going to be all about 7 days to a more authentic you. So basically we're going to be spending the next 7 days together, and I'm going to be breaking down my top 7 teachings for you in how you can embody your truth and step into the most authentic version of yourself possible. So I want to start off by just sharing with you guys a little bit about why I do this. Like, why authenticity? Why is this my shtick or my MO when doing work with people? And the answer is pretty simple. I spent most of my life hiding many aspects of who I was. One of them being gay, being a gay man, and grew up with a lot of shame around this. And I hid aspects of myself, feminine aspects of myself, became really ultra masculine, these sorts of things. And I became further and further from the truth of who I was throughout the course of my teens and into my 20s. And then it wasn't until my late 20s, early 30s where I started to do this work around authenticity and really a lot of self-acceptance and self-ownership. And stepping into the truth of who I was very important. And what I noticed I got when I started to do this work was I started to attract into my life the experiences, the people, the feelings of that made me happy, that gave me fulfillment. And I developed the quote, when we own who we are, we attract what we need, because it's really about that. When we own who we are, we truly own who we are, and we say, this is me, the people come into your life that are so complementary to who you are, and you develop a tribe. You can fall in love a lot easier this way, because when you're being who you are, you attract people that can come in and love you for just that, and then you start to feel really good about being loved in this person that you're able to show up in the truth of who you are. So long story short, I do this work because I believe so strongly in human connection. And I feel like the only way that we can truly connect with people in meaningful ways is when we show up and be authentic to who we are. So you might be asking, what is authenticity? Okay, what is authenticity? It's a good question. So authenticity is described in the Webster's Dictionary as of undisputed origin, genuine. Okay, of undisputed origin, genuine. So there's an element of authenticity. I think people, when they first hear the word authentic, they maybe attribute it to the word fake. If you're not authentic, you're fake. I don't really like to use that term. Authenticity for me is about shortening the gap of who we think we have to be and who we really are, and becoming one. It's about alignment. So I use the word or the definition that authenticity is the expression of alignment. When we're aligned and we're no longer rejecting the aspects of ourselves that we don't like, and we allow them to be embodied into who we are with self-acceptance and self-ownership and self-love, we become aligned, we become congruent, and we step into the truth of who we are. Because one of the biggest reasons why we don't step into the truth of who we are is because we fear rejection, we fear that we won't belong, we fear people not accepting us, because we don't accept ourselves, because we don't love ourselves, right? That's why. So as soon as we move into this alignment by loving ourselves, befriending our shadows, I call it, which will be one of the courses that we talk about later, we notice that this really strong desire for other people to accept us and love us and approve of us it melts away, it falls off, because we're doing for ourselves what we've been dependent on other people to do for us, right? Give us validation, approval, worth, those sorts of things. So authenticity is the expression of alignment. So what I want to do with you guys is throughout the course of the next 7 days is I want to teach you how to align to yourself. That's really what it's about, right? I'm not going to teach you how to be authentic, because you already know how to be authentic, because that's your natural state of who you are, right? What I want to do is I want to declutter the things that are preventing you from alignment, right? The rejection of the aspects of yourself you don't like, learning how to befriend those. And once we integrate those things and befriend the shadows, we naturally will become more authentic. So I'm actually going to be teaching you how to align, not necessarily how to become more authentic. So in order to understand how to become aligned to yourself, we need to understand the relationship and the role that shame plays in all of this. So shame is a very interesting emotion that we experience when we have been told, or we've collected in our environment or through our experiences, that we are unacceptable, unlovable. There's something wrong with us. Okay, it differs from guilt in the sense that guilt is all about something is wrong with my actions. So when we feel guilt, we're able to separate us versus our actions, and when we experience shame, we're unable to differentiate that. It's the we're defective as a person. Okay, so it's important to understand that. So what shame will tell us is that we're not good enough. Shame will tell us that we need to hide aspects of ourselves, that we need to wear masks to cover up the things that we don't like about ourselves, that we think others don't like about ourselves. So really it's about changing our relationship to our shame triggers, the things that cause us shame, right? So, and really the only way to do this work is with shame specifically, is to take it out of secrecy, because shame breeds in secrecy. And when we're holding the things that we don't like about ourselves inside, and we're not willing to bring them out, that the simple act of having to hide something it's sending a message to ourselves that we're not okay. We're not okay to be seen. So just allowing yourself to be seen, as uncomfortable as that can be, is a really great way to dismantle shame and begin to step into your authenticity. So that's an important thing to understand through all this, is that we need to work with our shame. Oftentimes we become masters at hiding our shame and compensating our shame. So for example, for myself, I can share a personal story. Is with my experiences, it's all been about perfectionism, right? So there's aspects of myself that I don't like, so I will do everything and anything in my power to have everybody see me for how I want to be seen, because I don't want people to see me for how I truly felt or have felt. I've done a lot of work in this area, and I'm still navigating my way through it, but I've done a lot of work in this area where perfectionism no longer controls me, and I'm able to bring forth aspects of myself that I've deemed as undesirable in my past, and I've learned to make peace with them and integrate them, and it's helped a lot. So understanding that this role around shame and the role that that's going to play is going to be a big part of this healing with alignment. The next thing we need to understand is the habits of self-rejection that we're currently in. Okay, so how do we partake in the inauthenticity or the hiding of ourselves? What are we doing tangibly in our lives? So for me, I wear a mask of perfectionism. I do everything in my world. I make sure everything's nice and tidy and neat and in little containers, so I don't have to have the experience of someone being like, oh, you're lazy, or you're this, or you're that, or anything that maybe would make me have to experience shame. So look at your life and look what you've built around you as walls or armor to prevent you from having to experience shame. Okay, and start to slowly let those things down. Start to slowly stop doing them. So for me, for example, it was, how can I slowly start to let go of my attachment to, say, my body image, right? Portraying a perfect body image gave me worth. And that worth was very, very fragile, because if only when I was looking in the mirror or getting validation from people was I feeling worthy. So when I started to let go of those things, I started to deconstruct my habits around how I start to seek approval was extremely helpful. The other aspect of self-rejection is we often sweep things under the rug, or we put them into the closet and we just tuck them away and leave them in there. A lot of this work is going to be about turning our self-animosity or self-rejection into self-acceptance and self-ownership. So there's a journey that we're going to go through, and the first step to that journey is to go and open the door of your closet and look and see, okay, what are all the things that I don't like about myself? And it can be very painful to sit with those things, but we're already sitting with them, right? That's the thing. They're in our subconscious. They are infiltrating our lives every day. So the key is to bring self-awareness to them so we understand exactly what we need to do to start to work, or like what we're working with. We don't know what we're working with, we're not going to be able to work with it. And that self-awareness alone can be enough to transmute a lot of this. Just being aware of what am I hiding? What do I don't want people to see about me? Because you're going to start to notice that you're going to go through this period where you're going to feel like, okay, I feel angry at myself for having to hide myself. I feel silly. I feel shame. We can feel shame for having to feel shame around hiding ourselves, right? And then we go through this place of maybe anger, where we're like, I'm pissed off that I feel like I couldn't have been myself all this while. And then once the anger subsides, we start to feel acceptance for, okay, I had to hide these things. I had to develop an ego for a reason, because it was protecting me in a time in my life where I didn't feel safe to show up as myself. But now I do feel safer to show up as myself because I'm bringing awareness to this. So as we make our way through these stages, we need to understand that the number one ingredient through moving through these stages is going to be self-compassion. So always asking yourself at every step of the journey, every moment of every day, how can I be more gentle with myself right now? Right? We don't push and shove our way through our healing. We nurture our way through our healing. And that's a very important aspect of all this is nurture. Allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to have a day where you cry and be lazy and eat whatever you want if that's what you need. Okay, this journey is no longer going to be about punishing yourself into being who you are. It's going to be about accepting and loving yourself into who you are. So one of the points I want to make about authenticity is, if you're unsure of who you are because you've spent so many years of your life hiding who you are that you're no longer sure of who you are, the who you are that we want to return to is going to be the person you are when nobody's around. Right? When you're at home and you're being silly and goofy and you're dancing around to your favorite songs in your PJs and you're just being you, that's who we want you to return to. This is the inner child of who you are. This is the essence of who you are. Okay? So one of the things that prevents us from being this is other people's opinions of us, other people's judgments of us, and we internalize them. We take them on, whether it's through people's words, what they've said about us, their reactions to us is a big one. We're always looking and surveying our environment, seeing who's watching, right? Who's watching, and when they see what we do, we see their response, and if we get invalidation or even people can shame us into behaving in certain ways, then we pick up that shame, it stimulates our shame, and we therefore suppress that behavior, right? So we got to be really mindful of that. And as we start to step into our truth and we start to get more confidence in who we are, we no longer look around the room to see who's watching what we're doing and approving of it or not. We just end up being in our essence, in our energy. Okay, this is such a beautiful place to be, and this is why I love doing this work with people in my coaching, is because I get to see people bloom. And in my book, I use the example of how I felt growing up. Is I felt like a rose, a beautiful rose, but I had an elastic around the petals. And it wasn't until I started to do vulnerability work and authenticity work that I took the elastic off and I allowed my rose to bloom. Right? It was always constricted. I always felt constricted, and it was my perfectionism and making sure everything was perfect and in order through control that I felt like this elastic that was all bunched up and this rose that was all bunched up, and finally I got to bloom, and it was such a beautiful experience. And I love being able to offer this space for people to be able to bloom. It's a really beautiful gift that we can give one another, is the space to be able to be ourselves. So one of the points I want to make about this journey is that we often get caught up in trying to shape how others view us, and it's an impossible task. Okay, I want you to stop doing this, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to shape the opinions that others have of us. And it's impossible. We'll never be able to do it because people are filtering who we are through their own experiences, through their own triggers, through their own shame. They might see something in us that they don't like because it stimulates something in them that they don't like about themselves. And then suddenly we take that on as it's something about us that's unacceptable. But really it's about them, right? So there's a story of you and who you are in the minds of everyone that you have met, or even that you haven't met, right? We're in the social media era, we're putting ourselves out there. Someone has never even met me and they might have an opinion of me. And when I try and shape that, I lose who I am. I lose my truth. I step further and further away from who I am because I'm worried about helping other people see who I am. But that's not what this journey is about, right? It's about letting go of that and owning your story, right? You're the only one that knows your story. You're the only one that knows your dark night of the soul, your invasive thinking, your anxiety, your depression, your addictions, your joy, your love, your heartbreaks, all those things. You're the only one that knows those, right? That's your story. So self-ownership is about owning your story, right? Take your story and do what you need to do with it to enrich your life, and slowly start to let go of looking outside yourself for people to reflect back to you who you are, right? Because people are always going to reflect back to you who they are through their own story, right? You're a character in their story. And oftentimes we're looking for people to be convenient characters in our story, meaning that they're not going to trigger us, they're not going to disappoint us, they're not going to disapprove of us. And when people approach a relationship with us like that, it becomes convenient for them, meaning it no longer is about acceptance and ownership of the other person. It becomes about how can they serve my story, right? And that's okay. It's okay to be in that position, but not when you're being victimized by that. So it's really about create your own story and own your own story, and that you're going to be a lot better off because of that. So I want to share a quote from my book, Be the Space. So it is a loving guide to creating inner space through present moment awareness. So it's the wisdom, all of my wisdom to end the suffering that our mind causes us. So this book is all about the journey from your head to your heart, and that's what this is about with this authenticity work that I do. It's about teaching people how to embody themselves. So come out of the mind where the ego exists, right, and the stories of who we think we need to be, and drop down into the heart of who we really are. That's what this book is about. It's a guide in teaching you how to do that. So what I want to share with you guys is a quote from this book. So surrender is about dissolving resistance through accepting each moment for what it is and letting go of what you wish it was or could be. This practice will put an end to the mind being your master and allow you to become the master of your mind. Surrender is the first step towards living a life free of the madness of the mind. Until this becomes your number one priority, you will continue to identify with the mind, and it will masquerade as you, causing great suffering. When you liberate yourself from mind identification, you have the realization of oneness within yourself. There is no longer duality in oneself. You are no longer the mind pretending to be you because you fall into the essence underneath the mind, which is your inner body. When this transformation occurs, you will no longer refer to yourself as someone separate. The I, we, me, our, us will all merge into one, and this is the essence of who you are. The separateness prior to the oneness is the position your ego has been occupying in your mental reality. It has required a separate sense of self, the false self or the ego, to relate to the world because it lives in fear. The ego, when not being fed fear, becomes one with your true self. You no longer need a false sense of self to protect you from the world around you because you are at peace with yourself. This is the birthplace of authenticity and vulnerability. When we take off this false mask, we allow the world to see us just as we are, and we begin to attract all that we desire by being aligned to our truth. When you own who you are, you will attract what you need. So this speaks to the journey of letting go of ego, right? Unraveling the ego. And that's what this work with authenticity does. Authenticity or inauthenticity tells us that we have to identify with the mind and our stories, and we need to make sure that we control everybody's opinions of who we are. And authenticity is about dropping down from your head into your heart so you can just be who you are in the fullest expression of who you are in any given moment, right? We no longer have to feel like we have to live up to these expectations of people that people put on us of who we need to be. We feel like we no longer need to live up to these expectations of our work or the roles that we play in our lives, and we just get to be who we are and be that expression. And you're going to notice that people are just magnetically attracted to you. Ever since I started doing this work, I've just been like a magnet. People just want to be around me because they feel the energy of me being aligned to who I am, and they want to be around people who are like that, because when we often become the people who we spend our time with, right? So this is very important work. So one of the skills I want you to practice over the course of the next while is start to embrace the things that you've been told about who you are, that you've been told that you don't like about yourself, or that people have said they don't like about you, or whatever it might be. Start to embrace them by allowing them to be seen. And we're going to start to do this by doing it with people who we're safe with. So it might be your mom or your dad or your partner or a really close friend. We start to bring a part of ourselves that maybe we're a little bit uncomfortable with, right? We call these our shadow selves. So we bring these just small, and start small and build your way up. And then suddenly you can start to bring more deeper aspects of yourself. And what I always tell myself when I'm doing this work for myself is my vulnerability is my superpower. Okay, we often think when we bring forth these aspects of ourselves, our shadows, that we're going to be shunned for them, but we're never shunned for them. I promise you. What we are always is related to, right? People see in us the things that they also don't like about in themselves, and when they see you step forward and have the courage to be who you are, it gives them permission to do the same. And vulnerability for me has been equated to relatability, and relatability has related to connection. So I have very deep, meaningful connections with people because of my vulnerability. Okay, so always remember that whenever you're feeling like you're too scared to step forward and be your most authentic self, because this is the most important part of the work. Okay, an affirmation when you're feeling freaked out and scared to be who you are is put your hands over your heart, take a nice deep breath, and say, "This is me. This is who I am. This is me. This is who I am." And feel that container that you're holding inside yourself, because that's the energy of who you are, right? It's a beautiful energy. We all have this beautiful energy inside of ourselves. We just need to connect to it by getting out of our minds and down into our hearts, okay? So if you want to get a copy of the book, this would be a really, really great strategy to and read this book while you're taking this course, or even after the course is done. It's going to be a really good way to kind of integrate and solidify a lot of this work, making the journey from the head to the heart. You can find it on Amazon. Just look up Be the Space, or just type in my name, Matt Lansadell, and you'll find it on Amazon. All right, thank you guys. This was an awesome first lesson. I'm looking forward to the next 7 days with you guys. Have a beautiful day.